everyone. My name is Chubby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to
No Filters, No Fears podcast. If you're just joining us, we've been having problems with our technology. When don't we write? Today's level is a level 4 elephant. If you're watching us, let us know if you could hear us fine. And we're talking about homelessness. Yes, we are chatting. You are correct. That is the correct word, chatting. We are chatting.
chatting. I like that.
Yeah, we always chat. We chat. We that's why when we do our podcast, we try to make it more conversational, more than a script.
That's when the truth comes out.
Right. Because it's more natural, and instead of being like, okay, guys, this is what you have to say, and this is all you say. No, this is organic, natural. We do talk about what we're gonna talk about, but we don't talk about how we're gonna feel because we don't know. So Vanessa might say something, and all of a sudden it's like, Chubby feels this way about what she said, so we're gonna sit here and be like, listen.
And we don't always share the research beforehand either.
No, we don't at all. Okay, so as we always start with a definition. So homelessness is lacking stable and appropriate housing. People can be categorized as homeless if they are living on the streets, moving between temporary shelters, including houses of friends, family, and emergency accommodation, living in private boarding, houses without a private bathroom, or security of tenure. Homelessness there's so many different ways to be. And that is a common misconception that people assume that you are homeless, just living on the streets. If you watch our video that we posted up today on our social media, you could tell that you have a full-time job and you're still living in a car.
Lack of affordable housing is the number one reason for homelessness. Unemployment is the second. Poverty does not even come in until like third or fourth.
Yeah, it depends on what state you live in. You guys want to know something? According to the statistics, the rate of homelessness in the U.S. by states, 2020 goes New York, Hawaii, and California. Top 3.
Hawaii.
It's so expensive to live there. For example, Massachusetts is expensive to live there, and if you have like 3 or 4 roommates, you're fine. Yeah, you have to live with a bunch of other people, and I'm speaking from experience. It's expensive to live in certain states, but New York City is the most populous city in the United States that is at the top list of largest homelessness population. The HUD estimates that New York City has 78,604 homeless people that live in shelters and without shelters. So, I knew New York was big, but damn. Cynthia says many massive migration from Florida to here, Las Vegas, Nevada. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Ready?
she says
California. That's great, actually.
Yeah.
So according to this, the count in homelessness by state was in California, and this is on any given night in 2019. Okay, 150,000.
Wow. These numbers are, and you want to know which country has the most homelessness? Country or continent or whatever you want to call it in the world? The Philippines.
Really?
The most homelessness city in the world is Manila, Philippines, with 3.1 million people, with 70,000 of them being children.
Ready? Okay, so state by ranking, and this was your list was from 2020.
2020. Yes, correct.
So in 2019, the highest percentage, the top ranking was DC.
Yes, I read.
Literally, where the laws and assistance that could prevent this happen is where the most people, 92 what is it? 92.8% of their population. Do you know how big DC is?
Mm.
Such thing as parking. Parking is horrendous in DC. So that is so sad.
That's the thing that surprised me when I read that, because DC, and again, just because it's small does not mean, shouldn't mean that there shouldn't be any homelessness, but hey, it's happening.
Months ago in Texas, there was that storm, right?
Yes.
Everything got flooded and all the. I went shortly after, and there were still people in tents. It was freezing, okay? And there
Hmm.
are people in tents in those situations and in flooding, and shelters were not being opened or made available to them. There are not enough beds and shelters or support for nonprofit organizations that provide housing. There just isn't, and it's really upsetting. Like, this particular topic is close to home because there's like this concept, this idea of what homelessness looks like, right? There's this idea that if you're homeless, you automatically are unhygienic in some way. Your clothing is ratty. You're rolling around with a cart. That's not every person. I was homeless. I was sleeping in my car. And from seeing me on social media and in the street and going to a job, you would not have guessed it, that I was sleeping in an alley in my car. And if it wasn't for my friends, by saying, hey, come, you got a couch, you got a warm shower, like, I would have been
Right.
in trouble. And we are also quick to judge when we do see what we consider to be like the stereotype of a homeless person, a displaced person, right? And everybody, the comment of like, of not giving money or whatnot because you don't know they're going to use it for drugs or whatever. That's not every person's situation.
Right. I used to volunteer for this place called Camilla's House in Florida. I'm sure everybody who lived here in Miami, especially, you guys heard it. I volunteered there for 2 years of, was it college, I believe. And let me tell you the stories that I've heard and as to how they got to be in the situation they're in. You will be shocked. Literally, most of everyone is a paycheck away from being homeless. Like that one paycheck you use wrong, something, a circumstance comes up that you need to use money for something else. And the ironic part is that if your car shuts down, that is your transportation to get to work, but the bit of money you had left was to either pay your rent or food or whatever, what are you going to choose?
Right.
What are you going to choose?
And the thing is, it's so difficult because you will have the camp that is of the belief that, well, if we just get it together, you can do whatever job and make some money so you can scrape by. Even for some people, it's not that simple. Getting anything job still won't help them be able to get a home. They might be able to pay for the necessities that they need to maintain the job,
Right.
right? Clothing, a phone, uh, gas in a vehicle or bus fare or whatever the case may be. But having the extra expenditure of a monthly thing, which also requires a light bill, a water bill, all of those things accumulate. And
Exactly.
those who have had, the opportunity take those things for granted. And then you blame it on, well, prepare yourself, educate yourself, go out there, get a degree. But if you have a family, or if, it takes money to go to school, and sometimes you don't just get free help from the government to go to school, you have to have some sort of aid. And it's a vicious cycle. And unfortunately, it was created that way. It's our system.
Right.
Because a lot of homelessness, like from even before, began when people were, what is it, the redlining, when they were creating like black black homeowners could only live on this section, but they couldn't live over here, and
Uh,
creating these rules which put them away from areas where they could get and maintain better jobs, right? So all the gatekeeping throughout history and all the things, yes, there's been progress.
the thing is
Poverty
that
is never.
poverty is never a crime. We'll read the one
What
above
is
in a
it?
minute. You want to read it
Yeah.
right now? Hold on.
Yeah. Shelter, food, and safety are the basic human need. Absolutely. I remember research from psychologists based on compassion practices and nonviolent communication that explain that the society is made so only a percentage of the population owns a lot of accumulated wealth. Exactly. And shaming a homeless person for where they are, those new age ideas that you create your own our reality is BS. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know we're seeing the influx, right? Like in campers and everybody wanting to live in a car or transform a bus, which is super cool. And I'm all about it. I want one. But it was
Yes.
also not, now it's become a trend. We're adopting it as a trend, but
Right.
it was born of a place of need.
Right. Exactly.
So, and that's
Um.
really funny because our culture does that. Our American culture does that anyway.
Right. And mind you, there are a lot of ways to get to the point of being homeless. There's a lot of veterans that we know that are homeless. For whatever the case may be, they fight for a country, US obey here and end
Yeah.
up.
You know my opinion.
Yeah, no, we all want to hear it more, even though we talked about it. But I think that's BS as well. It's like, I know that they come back with PTSD and certain things, and they need the help and whatever. But where's the housing? Where's the help? What happened there? We don't know everybody's case, so obviously we can only assume, and which you shouldn't do that. But still, we only assume what the case was, and like we just said, like somebody getting kicked out of the house and nowhere to go, um, or the building shutting down and then everybody has to evacuate like that and nobody knows where the hell to do or where the hell to go.
Homeless youth, the number of homeless
Oh,
youth is out of control.
it's
The
unbelievable.
last 4 years in the United States, the rate of homelessness has not decreased. It has slowly increased every year by increasing percentages. Last year was by 2%.
Weren't you
And of
mentioning
course,
that?
last year, mid pandemic, nobody has a job, nobody can work. And there was no there were people with conscience saying, okay, we'll make a break here, we'll do this, but there was no push, no governmental push to tell people, hey, we need to make these kind of allowances because of the current situation that was completely unprecedented. You know, there was no help like that, so people were being pushed by their landlords to pay bills that they couldn't pay. So it was put food in your child's mouth or pay the rent. And so you have then people going into work or doing jobs during a situation that they probably should have been home.
Right.
I remember a friend of mine saying that they closed a McDonald's by her house down because the manager of that particular McDonald's was forcing people that had said tested positive for corona, were very sick with it, fever and the whole deal, made them come into work anyway.
That's crazy.
Not just putting the other employees at risk, but putting the customers at risk.
That's insane.
And the fear that person must feel because this is what they're able to do for themselves, for their family, and to think that they might lose their only source of income if they don't buck up.
That's another thing. All those people that are like single parents or, people that live alone, individuals, like myself. So, and if you have family that could actually help, during the pandemic, at least, that I'm talking about, you're good, you're okay. But what about those that don't have anyone? Absolutely, like,
You know, it's really funny. It is a very mental thing too. So for those that and this is such a shitty word to use, and we're going to be talking about it soon in another context, but when you can pass as someone who's got it together, it is such a mind fuck to have to share that you're not in the best space, that you're not doing well, and that you need help. So asking for help becomes very difficult because you don't want pity. You also don't want a lecture because you know what you got to do, and it's not that you're not willing to do it. It's just things take time, and in that interim, shit's rough. And you also don't want the opinion of that the people around you or close to you have of you to change because of the circumstance. And the circumstance might last a year. My circumstance lasted about 2 years. And I thought I would be back up and running in a year. And that was not the case. So like it's really difficult. And that shame does rest there, because if you find yourself in that predicament after never having been there, you were taught to shame those that were. So now that you are in that position, you feel the shame that you know is going to come your way.
Right. And that is another thing that most people don't realize. They probably have friends that are right now jumping from couch to couch, but they don't see it as being homeless because they don't think that that is a form of being homeless. They just see, oh, they're just jumping from couch to couch. They're just having fun. They're doing whatever. No, some people are jumping from couch to couch, car, parking lot, whatever. And they don't even realize. I currently have friends as well that are going through this, and it was out of their control. It's not like they said, I'm not going to pay this today, or I am going to quit the job, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. It's just, it happened. And now what can they do? They're trying everything that they can to get back in their feet and be like, I need to go and find a place of my own, So, like I told you earlier, you can't judge someone thinking that you know why they're there in that situation.
And then imagine, for example, these veterans that already have post-traumatic stress from being returned soldiers, right? From whatever situation they came back from. On top of that, they get back up on their feet because now there are better programs for veterans. But if they're able to, they now also live with this kind of trauma of having been in that situation and not wanting to be there again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a lot of layers to this. And then of course we only think about displaced within the context of a city, right? So within our city, within our country, within, our state, our states. But the reality is displacement, feeling that lack of home, is so much bigger, the scope of it, right? Displaced is every immigrant who had to leave their home because they could not make a life for themselves there.
Exactly.
Right? Call it exodus, call it exile, call it whatever you want. By choice, of course they're going to want to stay home. My grandparents didn't leave Cuba because, forget Cuba, esa mierda. Like, no.
Right.
They left their country because they had no choice. And because they had children that they felt deserved a better future. And they missed their home with every fiber of their being, So,
ooh, okay. What does...
Ooh, Cynthia, you are on it today.
Yes, Cynthia is. Thank you for joining us again. I have so much fun working with her. She's such a light. But you want to read?
No, okay, I'll read. Okay. By being many years in therapy after going from trauma, conflict, PTSD. No, I love it. Don't ever apologize.
No, you're welcome.
medication that almost kills, abuse, and homeless, I can tell you the system and society has not a clue what real psychology is all about. They're just like scratching the surface. A
Hmm.
therapist would never ever shame a person in this situation. But the people who end up, it's gonna make me emotional. Okay, end up at this level in those same shelters, social workers, police, judicial system is, oh, fuck you, YouTube, fucking brutal. And I'm sorry, they're gonna like bleep us all over the place, and could never survive if any of them are obligated to have therapy before assuming their public position. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, it's there's so much experience, like your experience informs how you proceed in life. That's why it's important to
Exactly.
have multiple experiences in one space helping to make decisions. Varied experiences, to be clear. Because one
Wait.
sided, one dimensional, one gendered, one race, one culture driven experience is not going to cover for everyone.
Not at all.
And I say experience because the psychology, their name is Cynthia.
Cynthia, yes.
Cynthia. The reason I say experience is because from our experiences is where our psychological traumas and ability to, connect,
Yeah.
assimilate, or project, or whatever the case may be, comes from. So, yeah, 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 yeah.
It is a level, what, 5 elephant? I said 4 earlier. It's a 5.
Oh, there you go.
It's at a 5, right? It's a 5. It's a 5.
I,
It's never.
I,
It's not a 4.
yeah, this one is a 5. Next week's is a 4.
I said, well, it's a level 5 elephant. Okay, I'm just gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, no. Remember, I told you this before. I'm over here like, so in the area that I live, it's a story to this because the area that I live, every day I pass by it and I'm always thinking, oh my God, what if there was like a drive instead of a blood drive of like bringing homeless into the truck and asking them for their information so we could get IDs for them and ask their situation. If it's something more deeper like drug issues, then we could find other resources that could bring them in. Obviously, with $100 you could get an ID, a pair of clothes, so they could go to a first interview, print out a paper. Obviously, who's willing to do that on their own accord and be like, let me do that for one homeless person I could do help, right? And I was always thinking that, and every time I walk I see that, and these are the thoughts that come into my head. So not too long after that thought that I had in my head, the city that I live in, they have this program called the ID card program, right?
Mm.
And these new ID cards are on the way to the area for undocumented immigrants, homelessness, and recent out of jail or prison people. Obviously, that will make it easier for them to get vaccinated, gain access to shelters during hurricanes or any other catastrophe of that nature. And to the immigrants, it will help them register the children for school.
Oh, wow.
So this ID program is part of a national initiative called the Faith Action ID card, and it's about 20,000 cards that have been issued already. Mind you, this program has been going on for 8 years throughout the U.S. So not every city has had the opportunity to bring this program and help the homeless or immigrants or people recently out of jail. When I found out about this, I was like, that is such a great help. Obviously the city needs the funding to help, for this program to go forward. If you live in Florida, West Palm Beach has already done it, Broward is doing it, and where else, yeah, Miami is about to start on that. And that is such a great help, even though it's that, I mean, that's 20,000 people. That's enough, people out of the not out of the streets, but able to have identification in order to get a step somewhere.
Yeah.
So yes, it's called the Faith Action ID card. Just in case you want to see if it's in your city, wherever you are in the United States listening to this, or wherever you are, you could just search it up and see, hey, maybe we are able to help in some way that we don't know.
That's awesome. That's
And
very cool. And I can imagine, Truby, if it wouldn't have been a thing, you would have gotten like a truck and started doing it.
if I could, I would. I just need to, make sure it's legal, make
Yeah.
sure that I am not putting my foot somewhere that I'm not allowed to, because things like that can, there's a liability
Destroy a very
somewhere.
good intention. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You brought something up that I had wanted to mention before, and I was like, ooh,
Hmm.
hold on to that.
Yeah.
Prisoners that get out, like when they're released. So obviously I am not talking about things like people who've committed mass murders or pedophiles or anything like that.
Just petty things.
I'm talking about there are thousands upon thousands of people that are in prison right now for the most obscure shit. Taking up
Exactly.
space and tax dollars for things that are absurd. That there's just no need for them to be in prison for as long as they have been sentenced.
Right,
Right?
it's
Just do it
ridiculous.
with, yeah, for possession of marijuana, and we're talking about this amount of marijuana that are in prison for like 10 years. I'm like, okay,
And
how?
then somebody who murders somebody gets,
Gets out in 5 for good
yeah,
behavior. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
yeah, it's
nonsense.
ridiculous.
So they get out after their misdemeanors, right? They don't know. Like, there's no programs, there's like rehabilitation situation to kind of integrate them again. There are some programs. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're available to all these prisoners that are being released. So what happens? They either intentionally or out of not knowing, not having another, and having to survive out there without being able to get a job because now they've been in prison. So if that's the case and you write that on a job application, they're not going to hire you. They end up going back to jail because it's a shelter.
Right. There's a lot of things being imposed onto them that they can't and can't do when they get out. And it's like, okay, then I was in jail. I can't do this. I can't do this. What am I supposed to do then?
Yeah.
This is why I believe having programs. See, this is another conversation that we will have in a future episode, because I believe having programs to rehabilitate these people so they could get a life when they get out and have a job lined up or something lined up will
Yeah.
always be a.
There's one in particular that I supported for a while. I actually haven't been in contact with them for a bit. But Chapman Partnership, they
Mhm.
have 2 locations in downtown Miami, and they work with the Homeless Assistance Trust. Um, and they provide, um, you know, the people that stay there, they provide them with rehabilitation. If they need help because of drug use, they help them with that. They help them with job training, and they help them get clothing, and they help them find their way. But like
Right.
I said, there is not enough funding even for this. For places like Camilla's House or Lotus House. Lotus House helps women that have had to leave abusive households, that have stayed in abusive households because they don't know where to go or what to do. Right? They depend on their spouse to, for to live. And so
Right.
they take their children and they go to Lotus House. And Lotus House is a wonderful, wonderful, I cannot stress how wonderful Lotus House is. And but they don't have enough funding. These not-for-profit organizations have to beg and plead for money, while for-profit organizations throw one party and they make double what or triple what it costs them to throw the party to begin with.
Right. Exactly.
So
And
it's hard.
yeah, like Cynthia just said, they have no rehabilitation and they go out. go without resources and with the record. Yeah, of
Without the
course.
record. It makes
And
it
that
very
is the
difficult.
and that is the thing, like you just mentioned about, the what is it, the Lotus with the program
Lotus,
that they
Lotus
help
House,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. If that mindset will be taken in jail, because you already have, in prison or in jail, you're using money from, the state or whatever. Why don't you put it to good use? Why don't you put it to good use and rehabilitate these people that obviously want to be integrated back into society? But not everybody has people when they get out. Not everybody still has family. People get disowned. People do not have anybody, not even friends.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there are people out there without a single human to call their friend or
Yeah.
a family. You
And if
know,
they've been in long enough,
they're just forgotten sometimes. And
it's also like, right, I say we as the collective we, like if we're the we're of England, but I say the collective we because we're all guilty of it at one moment or another. The fact that we're trying to be more conscious of it, wonderful. The collective conscious growing is always a plus. But the
right,
reality is that as a society, we are incredibly unforgiving. Incredibly unforgiving. And I am not talking about repeated offenses of racism and prejudice and things like that. I am talking about a person made a mistake, right?
right.
That they sold they've changed. A lot of people do come out of prison changed. I had a friend came out and different human being, right? We also are very unforgiving of for silly things. Return veterans. People get mad at them. Their family members get mad at them for joining the army or the navy or whatever and stop talking to them. And so they don't forgive and they come back and they have nowhere to turn, right? And then of course you have those who have gone through the arduous task of reaching sobriety. It is not easy. And people that are strangers don't know how to forgive that. So if they're in the situation of being without a home, now add to it the rejection of those that that the motivation to change, to better for was them, and they're shitting on you. It's like it's really difficult.
You just reminded me of something that I find baffling now that you reminded me of it. When teenagers are homeless, obviously they have nowhere to go, right? So they turn to shelters. Did you know you have to be a certain age in order to enter a shelter?
Or have
How
a home.
ridiculous
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
Like I'm 15 and I need to be of age in order to even like enter here when I'm homeless. Like how is that even? I get a liability. Like if something were to happen to this person, like you don't know what the circumstances are, so you're not able to take them in. I get it. There's circumstances. There's things that we've read that but at the same time, it's like it's a child, and now they're just being turned away because they're not old enough
Yeah.
to be taken care of.
It's like there are things. It's crazy to me. Programs are available. There has been progress in that. But if
Right,
nobody
right, right.
knows about these programs, especially the people that need the resource, don't know where to find it, have access to it, or it is not accessible to them because of an age qualification or whatever qualification, it defeats the purpose of the program existing. And then what
Right.
is the funding for really? Is it to make it useful to the people who need the resource? Or do you have a brand new yacht that we should all know about?
Right. And mind you, some people don't have all the resources or documentations to have these, help. Like these people don't have um their documentations. If they've been homeless for a while, they have no way of getting it. And what are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
Synthesis, may I share a link? It's about psychologists that explains in a very human way. Yes, of course. Of course, share, share.
Please. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
of
Oh
course.
my gosh, we love this so much.
Yes, share whatever you guys have out there. Just share with us. we're more than welcome to share with when we repost it, obviously on YouTube for the rest of everybody listening. Let me show so everybody can see, this. But yeah, I find it. Remember when we're doing the human trafficking one with the child is of age, and she's still a young adult and she can't leave the relationship. In order for her to even get out of that marriage, she needs to be of quote unquote age, which makes no sense for them to even, like, they can't get help.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. They're trying to get out of this marriage, but because they're not old enough to say, I don't want to be in it anymore, they can't be. Mind you, obviously, this only depends on the state. Not in every single state is like this, but in most states in the United States, in order for them to get out of it, they need to be legal of age. And I'm like, they got married at such a young age, and now you're saying that they can't, get a divorce. Yes, still people are able to get at the age of 16 is
Absolutely right.
but anyway, that was yeah, one of the episodes on human trafficking, if you guys are interested in that. Everything just correlates together. Everything just
All day, every day. I wanted to read two things that I have here. So we've used displaced versus homeless or in place of homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to, there's this one. Conflicts and disasters are a cause of homelessness. Displaced persons, by definition, have to abandon their homes. Those who face discrimination because of their ethnicity, place of origin, and gender are more likely to become homeless, and once homeless are exposed to more serious protection risks. Say what y'all will about Miley Cyrus or Demi Lovato, but when you use a position like they have, a platform like they have,
Yeah.
good, bad, or ugly, to create a space that helps, youth, right, or the marginalized, like we're talking about the number of young transgender uh, in California
Yeah.
is staggering. And they're putting their money where their mouth is and really helping. And I say they because Demi Lovato also recently started doing this um, because they recently came out as non-binary and started speaking more openly about why it's so important to them. Um, and so I also have here someone who's displaced is deported or impelled to flee from their country of nationality or habitual residence by forces or consequences of war or oppression. So, and there are three different types of homelessness. There is primary homelessness, living on the streets in parks or a deserted building. So what they would call squatters, when somebody lives in the building, and they technically can kick you out, BT steps, technically. Don't ask how I know that. Secondary homelessness, living in a temporary shelter such as refugees or emergency accommodations, or sleeping on a friend's couch. And the tertiary homelessness is considered living in a boarding room.
Oh yeah.
So homelessness is the literal translation because you are living outside of what would be considered a home. Now, if your chosen home is your RV or your camper or whatever, that's your home. Go on with your bad self.
Right.
But if your situation is not, one that can be maintained or that can protect you from the elements in any situation, then you would be considered homeless. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, about the whole like displaced, about immigrants who have to leave their country because of lack of job or because they're going to, you know, um, my my family left because they were already sending young boys up to the mountains and they were never coming back.
Oh wow.
And my uncle was like, grab my sisters and get them the hell off this island. you know?
Yeah.
So everybody has their story, everybody has their reason. It's it's really shitty. We never know. I don't, I'm not saying that there's no possibility that there's somebody out there that put themselves in this state by making really stupid choices. But you think if they were given a second chance, they make the same
Of
choice?
course not.
Probably not, you know? But we also have to take into consideration that mental health and stability
Oh,
is a big
definitely.
factor in repeating certain errors. Addiction is a disease, it's not a choice. And unless, you know, it's properly addressed, of course, it's going to end you back up in certain situations. Um, so
And you know, you know how I feel about this topic, but anyway, if we cry, we cry. It's okay. It's fine.
I cried
I
already.
understand that some restaurants, some places, some facilities are not, they can or not allowed to give their either their food away because of liability. If something were to happen to the homeless person and they were to end up dying, they're responsible. I get that. But there are some places that do provide their leftover foods, and they put them in containers, and they're like, hey guys, come here and get this or whatever, and instead of letting it go to waste, because you know with how much food is in the world that goes to waste, we could feed everybody. Like, it's insane how much food goes to waste that we could
There,
feed.
you know that there are places, and this kills me. There are places, just like you're mentioning, that their rules, their protocol is that they can't package it up and give it away. Their employees can't take it. And I'm sure a lot of their employees could really use or taking it home to their families. You know what I mean? They're not allowed to take it home. They're not allowed to, they have to throw it in the garbage.
It makes no sense. If the food
Zero.
is perfectly
Untouched
good,
food.
there's so many wrong orders in these goddamn drive-throughs that you could honestly pick up and be like, oh, do you see somebody, and take it to them. ¿Quién
Yet
es
they're
already
targeting to get access to dumpsters at Publix to feed his tigers. I'm just like,
Ex-
why is this
exactly.
something we support?
Exactly. Like, it makes no sense. They're just sitting there. At the end of the day, they're gonna sit there in the counter. No one's gonna eat them, and it's like, here you go to a person that you could clearly tell that they need it. It's not gonna cost anything on your end, to give this away. And it's like, with the many experiences that I've had with, homeless, like, I have encountered people that are like, I don't want your food. I want the money for alcohol. Thank you for being honest, but I do not support that. Some people are like, oh my God, thank you for whatever, we have, like, I've stopped at red lights with my sibling one time, and he's like, we had like a 12 pack of Coke. He just handed it the 12 pack of Coke and a bag of chips. The fucking person was excited. That's all they wanted, food, something in their system. And it gets to me when people judge because, oh, you don't know, they might want cigarettes or this or that. Or, okay, fine, I understand that those are things that you don't condone and you don't want to, but can you ask, hey, what can I
Yeah,
do for you, instead of assuming or giving them an attitude because you're like, I don't know what you're going to use it for. Okay, then use your words and ask.
that's another thing. The lack of kindness. The lack of kindness. And that really hurts me because in the end, I get it. They may not smell the best, look the best, whatever the case, but these are still people. These are still people. I will never forget this one gentleman at a gas station who's always there. Okay. The owner of the gas station let him kind of sleep in the little back corner, had like a little shed there, and they would let him like set up camp there. And this guy was always there. He would sweep, he would do whatever he could for the owner, you know. And I thought that was so kind of the owner. But he would, every time somebody was coming up to the door of the gas station, he'd go and open it. And people would literally tell, no, 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 it's fine, whatever, like it's fine. Or like he'd open the door and they'd go in, and he would never take a tip from the people he would open doors for or anything like that. And one day I went to go offer him, and he goes, "Oh, no, no, no. But if you want, I'll clean your window, and then you can give me it." I'm like, "Oh," he goes, "No, I do this. I do this for my dignity because my mom raised me right." You
That's the
never
thing.
know. The damn, he's holding the damn door open for you.
The
Rude.
thing the thing is that at the end of the day, like you said, they are people. They're just people, and you don't know their circumstances. You actually don't know what got them there. Even your freaking friends that are jumping couch to couch, instead of judging them, why don't you ask, "Hey, dude, what can I do to help you?" Is staying at my house for a couple of months will say with your job will save you enough money to get on your feet. I'll do that for you. But all people do is just, sit there and just judge because they rather judge than ask and be in an uncomfortable position where, oh, now I ask, now I have to like, listen to what they're saying.
And there are some people that are absolute survivalists, right? Absolute survivalists, and they will think up of ways that they can make a quick buck so that they can get through the day or get through the week.
Right.
And there's other people that it's not because of lack or desire or drive to want to, it just doesn't occur to them. We have to consider there's also different levels of experience, of education, of experience, and also when you are malnutrition, when you're not getting proper nutrition or daily nutrition, you're it's not firing off in the same way.
Exactly, because
So if
you're not.
somebody gives you an idea, or helps you out, you know, you don't want to give money, donate. Like, I don't know. A friend of mine always says that if they were in a situation like that, they'd buy a whole thing of water and sell it for $1 a bottle, right? They made $5. They're gonna take that like 24 case, and they're gonna sell it and make $24. Absolutely, that's brilliant. That might not occur to some other people.
Right.
So if you see somebody in that situation and you see them, give them the idea, kind of deal. Yeah, it's really difficult because sometimes you also run into difficult situations where the person may really have, uh, you know, uh, they might be schizophrenic and not have meds. And that's very difficult. And I cannot even imagine what it's like to be in that predicament, right?
Right.
And on top of that, have to deal with not always being clear of what's real, what's not, who's who, what's what. And not to mention those that are homeless or displaced that are disabled.
Right. And another issue that arises from that is that if you are in a mental health need, um most like the people that are supposed to help you, like police officers are supposed to defend you in some way, they will assume that you're behaving a certain way, and it could get ugly, it could get pretty ugly. Let's answer some things here. Yes, we are both we yes, we're both empaths. Yes, we know that. I mean, unfortunately, very fortunately, it's just in the middle. um Let me see. It says, if I can't see that. If you may be as I am, I can be drowned and cry at any sight of pain, abuse, or injustice. So I learn to save and honor my energy to invite who may be a bit lost to come up with me, not to go down back with them. Because
Right.
we
What?
are not used. What? We're not used when we deplete ourselves. Oh yeah, we're no use. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So I help the ones that cross my path. That's all I could do. And if I feel I can participate at a bigger scale, then I do that. But target things that are doable, right? They're close to you. The universe needs you to shine on your fullest. No shame on that. Oh, totally. We do what we can. Like with
Hi. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you.
we do what we can with signing petitions. We're trying to do. I do a lot of donations. I do, clothing. Volunteer my time. We do the little things we can. Like this podcast, we're bringing awareness to what's obvious, but most people do not possibly understand it to the fullest intent. So we try our best with what we
You,
can.
when you're talking about those donations, that is awesome. There are a lot of places now, and this is exciting to see. And it's not just here in Florida. I've seen it in different cities, and different cities sometimes do it even better than us. They have places where you can donate clothes and such, and they give access to those things to the homeless of that area so that they can have clothes, books, right? There's community bookshelves.
Oh
The
yes.
idea of having, potable water available on the streets for free, right? So that people can get clean water, access to clean water. Brilliant.
The pantries. Remember, one they're like bookshelf. The books that are outside, but both full of pantries of food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are awesome. I have a book one here, but if that was full of food, there's a lot of the homeless. That would
Yeah.
be amazing. Obviously, people go donate there, and people take what they need. Obviously, because it's still.
I mean, y'all Google it. Look for in your city where there are those what are they called? The donation containers. But it could be
Yeah.
anything.
I don't.
I
Yeah.
But do your research. But Chubi always says reading is essential is 1,050% true. Be sure to the organizations that you are getting involved with, that you are donating your time, your money, your efforts, your clothing to, and where they're going. A lot of
Absolutely.
organizations start off with the best of intentions and then they go off to a direction that I don't know. There are a lot of organizations that are not for profit that your donations go, and they're mainly to serve the salary of the higher ups versus what their original intention was.
Right.
But places like Salvation Army, um, you know, a you're thrifting, which is awesome for the environment.
Right.
But also like donations to them actually does support veterans. It's not
That too.
supporting the big boss; it's actually supporting the veterans. Goodwill, not so much. I love Goodwill. Don't get me wrong, but
But
March of Dimes is one of those that's like they're literally like giving a dime, you know.
yeah, they have
So
their own. They have their own little thing going on there.
agenda, yeah. So you got to be careful, like where you're. Um, Truby has a world of organizations, tried, tested, and true that they support, and that I'm sure that they'd happily like give a list. I have my bunch, you know. Uh, Dream Defenders also uh, has committees that work with homelessness in downtown, if I'm not mistaken. And they do a lot of awesome work. I'm a big fan of Dream Defenders here in Florida.
Dream Defenders.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were lagging a little bit, so I had to.
Well,
Um, but with that being said, I do have a couple, two links or two organizations I want to share with you all, which are national, so it's the whole entire country, and I try to give as much information for the whole country, not just for like where we live, because the bigger the better. So today with 411 with Chubi, I don't have a theme like Vanessa does, but I just, the picture is good enough. So here we go.
I'll do you a thing. We're gonna get you a techno one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I'm gonna post it up right now. These are the two links. The first one is called endhomelessness.org. It's a national alliance to end homelessness in a nonpartisan organization committed to preventing and ending homelessness in the United States. So yes, they provide resources like shelter, food, and um, whatever else you need. If it's a family, it's an individual. So I like this one because it does what it says it's going to do. I did find one, and then when I realized, I'm like, oh crap, that one was not doing what it needed to do, and I got really sad because what disappoints me the most is like when you think an organization's doing, they say they're gonna do, and they're not doing it, and then you
Yeah.
go back and you're like, hey, that goes against everything you say. It's just come on, reassess yourself. And then the second one, which is right there, is called benefits.gov. This one is, how do I say, it's an application, for assistance. So it's called the Continuum of Care, COC, which is all around the United States. It's a homeless assistance program. It's a regional or local planning body that can coordinate housing, services, funding for homeless families and individuals. Yes, all across 50 states, DC, PR, and Guam. Yes, so you go to benefits.gov and there is an application there. The only requirement that you need to have is to be homeless or about to be kicked out or displaced in some way or form. You fill it out, and there obviously you follow the guidelines there, whatever else that they provide, it will tell you. But these are the only two that are at the bottom there: endlesshomeless.org and benefits.gov. Remember, benefit.gov is an application if you're about to be homeless or is homeless and you're able to access the interwebs, help. They're able to provide housing for you, food, shelter, X, Y, and Z. So right there at the bottom.
I have four little Quotey shorties.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I get it. Quotey.
Somebody gets their because now.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, Brian, thank you so much for this. And here we go. So colorful.
Right?
It's so colorful. We love it.
So my first quote: we think sometimes that poverty is only being hungry, naked, and homeless. The poverty of being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for is the greatest poverty. We must start in our own homes to remedy this kind of poverty. I think that speaks a lot to the kindness that we display to others, especially those that we run into on the street that might not be as fortunate as us to have shelter and to have access to, health resources. That quote was from Mother Teresa, one of the most generous and giving souls this world has ever known. Fun fact, we talked about this in an episode once, I think, that the lowest vibration that one can feel and be recorded scientifically. This is not just ooey juju, Vanessa and Truby are hippies. Like, the lowest vibration that one can record is shame, and the highest is love. The highest recorded vibration of love was Mother Teresa.
Wow.
I don't know if that's changed. Look it up. Homeless people are not the problem. They are the result of the problem. I think that's self-explanatory. That's from Unknown. But yes, perhaps we've seen how through time the idea of the separation and creating situations where people have to be far away from jobs that could potentially give them better opportunities to get their family in a middle to high class position, we've created the class system, right? The situation of what type of food is accessible to what communities. The problem with obesity was a created situation, right? The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. Albert Einstein. You may not have known before, but we just talked about it for a full hour plus. So if this is one of those things that speak to you, go for it.
And to add to that is just that is true. Some people see, oh, look at them, they're there in that tent, they just walk by. Okay, what were you able to do at that moment? My thing is always ask, hey, is there something I could do for you today? Yes, I know it feels uncomfortable. You don't want to bother them. You don't want to do this. I get it. I know, you don't want to stop your day, your privileged day because you know, want to talk to this person. I get that. But a simple question can go a long way, and you could help them in so many. You don't even know how much like you could help a person like that.
And if you choose not to go out of your way to do that, please do not go out of your way to be an ass and to be
Oh,
disrespectful or unkind or make it
exactly.
more difficult for that person, because there are those individuals. Please don't be that individual, please.
Yes, yes, yes.
And the last one, it is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it. Nelson Mandela.
All you gotta do is try.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's saying go out there and fix everything by yourself. But
Right.
one little bit, one, and I know it sounds really silly and cliche, but cliches are born of truths. Can we acknowledge that? So many cliches are born of truths, and somebody who experienced it and lived it and came out the other side. So one small act of kindness goes a really long way. And just being aware, your bubble is a lovely bubble, but there's other things happening outside your bubble, and other people's bubbles aren't so nice.
Mm,
So don't be judgy. Be grateful for your bubble. You don't have to give up your bubble,
no.
but make the road easier. I feel like sometimes we forget where we came from, and we get this air of entitlement. And it happens to us all at any given moment where we forget and we like get snooty for a minute and forgot what it was like to not have a certain amount of money in the bank, or a roof over your head, or a bed bigger than a twin. You know, we forget those moments and what it took and what it felt like, and what we did to get there. You know,
See, as a person that grew up like that, you know, poor, barely know when the next meal was gonna be. I promised myself as an adult I was gonna give myself everything that I didn't have. And but just because I can, I'm not. That's another difference, you know. I can't because I like to live simple, but I do appreciate everything that I do have. And it kind of sucks that you have to go through that. Some people don't even understand what it is to go through that. But the minute that they do, they don't even know how to handle life. And it's perfectly fine because you don't. This is
you
your
know.
if it's your first time or whatever. But like you said, be grateful for that bubble, man.
I mean,
Be grateful that you
I wouldn't
have.
wish people time on anyone, and I don't think you would either. But in recognizing that it is a privilege to not know that difficulty,
Oh yeah.
um, uh, when someone shares with you, and that it's a vulnerable thing to share. We've both shared something that I don't think was like the happiest moment of our lives necessarily, but it made us so much of who we are and of what we appreciate. I know I appreciated a whole lot more after that, because it didn't happen like at the beginning of my life. It happened as I'm supposed to be a functional part of society and adulting, and I failed, is what it felt like. The individual's already hard enough on themselves. They don't need extra people pounding them down.
And see, yours was in the middle ones. Mine was at the beginning of my life. And having to forgive the caretakers that were supposed to provide.
Yeah.
That's also um, a journey on its own because you have to forgive in order to be the person you are now, you know, to be better because you had no choice. So that's another thing. Forgiveness. And even if it was under your control, you have to also forgive yourself. And that's the biggest thing because people don't let that go. They can't forgive themselves for putting themselves in a situation. And I know it's hard, but you also have to forgive yourself.
Um, absolutely. I'm hand hugging you through the computer.
It's like
Um, Thank you, Cynthia. That's awesome. Payment piece. Thank you to Brilliant Souls. Thank you so much for what you shared. Um, we put up, it'll stay up on our Facebook, the chat, up until we send the video over to YouTube. But thank you guys all for, I don't know who's out there because only Cynthia. Thank you, Cynthia, for chatting with us. You gave such wonderful insight and perspective.
Yeah,
But whoever is out there, thank you so much for holding space and sticking through it. These topics are not easy. They're not easy for us either. Um, but it's what's on our mind, all this stuff, because it's a reality of the world that we live in. And the only way to for it to not be a reality is for it to be addressed and talked about.
I want to say thank you to obviously Cynthia, Diego, Peter, Sharon. You guys were watching. Ms. Vet was watching. Jason, thank you. Thank you everybody just for sitting here with us. We're sitting with the uncomfortable. We're getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. What we encourage you is to read. Reading is essential. We encourage you to do. I always do the pay it forward. So one act of kindness, just one for not for your sake, if not for somebody else that might need it more than you do. And remember not to judge anybody, and just to be nice, to be kind.
I feel like it's so much harder to be a dick. I feel it's so much
Right?
harder. You gotta put thought into it.
That's a lot of energy, man.
And bad
But
karma.
and share with us, in the comments or wherever. Just share your experiences with us as well. We would like to know. Just
Yeah.
and that's my final thought on all that.
I've said all of it. I feel like I've said all the final thoughts. I was gonna mention what our next. Let me see here. What our next episode is gonna be, because we showed our calendar today. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Um, Next one is a Memory Monday. We haven't had. Thank you, Jason. We haven't had a Memory Monday in a while.
Oh
You know,
my
our
God,
Memory
yeah.
Mondays are tend to be a little bit on the lighter side usually. This is actually going to be mixed, a mixed elephant Memory Monday. Our Memory Mondays have been about music. Was the tattoo episode a Memory Monday? No.
No,
No, we had
no.
toys, we had music, right? Good stuff.
Yeah.
This Memory Monday is going to be about milestones. Some milestones are really fun and happy, and other ones are like, remember that.
Right. I'm excited for that one as well because there's a lot of monumental milestones that have happened that it's a must.
Yeah, and it's historical, it's worldwide, and it's individual milestones. We'll be talking about it, and we love to hear what your personal milestones are. So we'll see you on Monday, 8 p.m. live with less technological issues. I hope.
I hope.
Lord,
So, like we always say, stay fearless, everybody.
stay fearless, fam.